In the previous lesson, we created an employee class, which we're going to use as a base for creating other types of employees, such as managers and hourly employees. We call the employee class a base class, and any classes that are created from it are called derived classes. In fact, we'll just add that in as a comment so you can see. That's a base class. So let's create a manager class, which is an example of a derived class. So we begin that by writing the keyword manager. Let me scroll this up a little bit. There we go, so you can see more. Followed by a colon. The colon indicates that we're about to indicate what the derived class is. The keyword public, followed by the class employee. That indicates that the manager class is derived from the employee class. The only data member we're going to define now for our manager class is going to be a Boolean variable salaried, which will indicate whether or not the manager or the particular manager is a salaried employee or not. And so that'll be a Boolean variable that's either true or false. The first public function we're going to create will be, of course, the constructor. So the constructor will be the name of the class, manager, followed by the parameter list, which will include parameters for the name, the pay rate, and our salaried variable. We'll call this parameter is salaried. And then because we want to use the constructor we created for the employee class in our manager class, we can call that in our manager constructor by using the colon again. So after we've defined the parameter list for manager, then we come back and call the employee constructor by using the keyword employee followed by the parameters that we're passing to it, name and pay rate, just like we do it if we were creating an employee object. Then we have an open curly brace, and then we set the salaried member with the isSalaried parameter, like so. So that defines the constructor. We'll also write a getter for the salaried members so that we can see whether or not a particular manager object is salaried or not. And that will be all we're going to define for the manager class right now. So again, to review, to create a derived class, you use class and the name of the derived class, followed by a colon, followed by the keyword public, and the name of the base class that you're deriving from. Then any special members that you need for that derived class are defined first, although they don't have to be. And then the next thing you probably will do is create a constructor. So of course the constructor has the same name as the name of the class, followed by the parameter list, whatever those pieces of data are, and then a call to the base class constructor so that you can instantiate those members with data. Then the body of the constructor will be whatever is left to do, which in this case is to set the salaried member. Then you can have any other functions that you need. And then, of course, you close off the class definition with a closing curly brace and a semicolon. So let's write a little test program to see if that works. First thing we'll do is we'll create an employee object, emp1. And we'll give Mary Smith a pay rate of $15. We'll test it to see if it works. So we'll write employee name with an indel. And then the employee's pay rate, which is get pay, indel. Let's create a manager object. Bob Brown, $1,500, that's a monthly salary, and a true for the isSalaried parameter. We'll just copy this code, paste it in, and change emp1 to emp2. And then let's also add a call to the getter just to see that it works. So here's our test program. Everything looks in place, so let's build and run the project. Move this over where you can see it. And you can see that, now we made that a semicolon, but we can change that later. Mary Smith, pay rate 15, Bob Brown, employee pay rate 1500, EMP2 salaried is a 1. One of the problems with C++ is that Boolean variables get returned as a 1 or a 0. We can work on that later to change it to a true or false. More than likely, we wouldn't really care to see it like that. We would use it in an if statement, in which case then we don't care what it returns. The if statement will handle that part of it. So our test program works. So we see that the way we create derived classes is by specifying to the compiler what the base class is that we're deriving our class from. Once we do that, we have access to the members and the functions of the base class. Although, as we're going to see in the next lesson, we do not have direct access to members from the base class. I didn't directly call name or pay in the definition of manager. That's because name and pay are declared as private in the employee class and cannot be used directly in any other class. What we're going to see in the next lesson is how we can modify the access level of these two members a little bit so that our derived class has direct access to them. We'll start that out by showing what the problem is, then I'll explain to you how to fix it. And we'll see how to do that in the next lesson.